I stood frozen in my parents' dining room, champagne glass trembling in my hand, as my father raised his drink higher. The room fell silent. 23 relatives turned their eyes toward the head of the table. My mother stood beside him, smiling that practiced smile I knew too well. My father cleared his throat and spoke words that would shatter everything. "A toast," he announced. "Some kids make you proud. Others just take up space." Laughter erupted. Every single person in that room laughed while staring directly at me. My hands shook against the steering wheel as I drove away from that house, away from those people, away from 32 years of being invisible. The road blurred through tears. I refused to let fall until I was safely alone. 20 miles stretched between their house and my condo. 20 miles I had driven every Sunday for 5 years. 20 miles that suddenly felt like the best decision I had ever made. I had arrived at that dinner thinking it was just another family gathering. My sister Madison had mentioned something about celebrating her latest achievement, though she had been deliberately vague about the details. I should have known better. I should have recognized the setup. The dining room had been packed with aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends. My mother had cooked her famous pot roast. My father had opened the expensive wine. Everything had seemed normal until dessert, until that toast, until the world tilted sideways, and I saw my family for exactly what they were. But that moment in the dining room was not the beginning. The real story started 5 years earlier, when I was 27 years old and working 2 jobs to keep my head above water. I had a morning shift at a medical billing company, processing insurance claims from 7 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. Then I would drive home, change clothes, and spend my evenings doing freelance graphic design work until midnight. Sleep came in small chunks between alarm clocks and deadlines. Madison had gotten engaged that year to Trevor, a lawyer she had met through mutual friends. My parents threw an engagement party that cost more than my monthly rent. I remembered walking into the country club they had rented, seeing the ice sculptures and the champagne fountain, watching my mother glow with pride as she introduced Madison and Trevor to everyone who mattered in their social circle. What nobody knew, what nobody ever knew, was that I had quietly paid the catering bill. $1,200 charged to my credit card because my parents had run out of money 3 days before the party. My mother had called me crying, begging me not to let Madison be embarrassed. So I paid. I always paid. My apartment at the time had been a studio with thrift store furniture and a kitchen table I had built myself from scrap wood. I kept detailed budget spreadsheets, tracking every dollar, cutting coupons, buying generic brands, doing whatever it took to save money. Not for myself. Never for myself. But because I knew, somehow I always knew, that my parents would need me to rescue them. And they did. Over and over again. The praise was constant and crushing. Every family dinner became a celebration of Madison. She was so smart. She was so beautiful. She was marrying a lawyer. She had such good taste. She knew how to dress. She knew how to make an impression. Meanwhile, I sat at the end of the table in my Target clearance clothes, eating food I had helped pay for, listening to my accomplishments dissolve into silence. I had gotten promoted to senior billing specialist that year. I had published my design portfolio online and landed 3 major clients. I had grown my savings account despite the constant drain. None of it mattered. None of it was ever mentioned. 3 years ago, my father called me at work. His voice had been tight with panic. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage. $4,800. The bank was threatening foreclosure. Could I help? Just this once? They would pay me back. I took out a personal loan. I signed papers that would take me 2 years to pay off. I saved their house. They thanked me once, briefly, over a 30-second phone call, then immediately asked if I wanted to join them for Madison's wedding dress shopping trip. I said no. I had to work. The pattern repeated itself year after year, emergency after emergency, crisis after crisis. I bled money to keep them afloat while they praised my sister for sending them a birthday card. Now, pulling into my condo parking lot in the present day, I sat in my car and let the engine idle. My phone buzzed. A text message from my Aunt Carol, who had been sitting near the back of the dining room during that horrible toast. The message said, "Leanne, you should know something. Your parents have been telling everyone that Madison has been paying their bills all these years. They have been lying about who has been helping them." I read the message 3 times. My chest tightened. My vision narrowed. The world became very small and very clear. They had not just taken my money. They had not just ignored my sacrifices. They had given Madison credit for everything. They had built her reputation on my bleeding bank account. They had turned my generosity into her glory. I sat in that car for 45 minutes, staring at my aunt's text message, feeling something fundamental shift inside me. The hurt was still there, sharp and fresh. But underneath it, something else was growing. Something hard and bright and absolutely done with all of it. I barely slept that night. At 3 in the morning, I got up, made coffee, and spread 5 years of bank statements across my dining room table. Numbers do not lie. Numbers cannot spin stories or play favorites. Numbers just exist, cold and factual and utterly damning. I went through every statement, every receipt, every confirmation email. I made a list in a spiral notebook, writing carefully, documenting everything. Mortgage payments. 17 times over 5 years. Amounts ranging from $800 to $2,300 depending on how behind they had fallen. Total, $28,000. Property insurance. Every year for 3 years because they kept letting it lapse, $4,500. Utilities during their rough patches. Electricity, water, gas. 14 months total when they claimed they just needed help getting back on their feet. $3,200. Car repair for my father's truck when the transmission died. $2,000. My mother's dental work because she had let her teeth decay for years without seeing a dentist. $3,800 for crowns and root canals. Emergency roof repair after a storm because they had no emergency fund. $6,000. Property tax bailout when they forgot to pay for 2 years and penalties piled up. $5,000. The total came to $52,347. I sat back in my chair and stared at that number. $52,000. I could have bought a house. I could have traveled to 12 different countries. I could have gone back to school. I could have invested in my future. Instead, I had poured everything into a family that saw me as a space filler. I remembered the sacrifices that came with each payment. Eating ramen noodles for 3 weeks straight after paying their mortgage. Skipping my own doctor's appointments because I could not afford the copay. Driving a car with a broken air conditioner through 2 summers because I had no money for repairs. Wearing the same 4 outfits to work for an entire year because I had nothing left for clothes. Crying myself to sleep from exhaustion after working 16-hour days to cover their emergencies. At 6 in the morning, I called my Aunt Carol. She answered on the second ring, voice rough with sleep. "I could not stop thinking about it," she said before I could speak. "I had to tell you. It was not right." "Tell me everything," I said. Carol sighed deeply. "Your parents have been showing off Madison's checks at family gatherings. Little amounts, maybe $200 here, $300 there. Birthday money, Christmas gifts, that sort of thing. They wave them around like she is supporting them. They never mention you. Not once. I always wondered how Madison could afford to help them when I knew Trevor's law firm was not doing well. Now it makes sense. She was not helping. You were." "For 5 years," I whispered. "I suspected something was off," Carol continued. "But I was not sure until last night. That toast. The way they looked at you. It made me so angry I could not stay quiet anymore. You deserve better than this, Leanne." We talked for an hour. Carol told me about conversations she had overheard, moments when my parents steered discussions away from me, times when Madison had accepted compliments for generosity that was not hers. The picture became clearer and uglier with every detail. After we hung up, I sat in silence, drinking cold coffee, thinking about betrayal. Then I remembered something. Email. I opened my laptop and logged into my email account. I searched for messages from my parents over the past 5 years. I found dozens. Thank you notes for payments. Requests for help. Promises to pay me back that never materialized. I read through them, seeing the pattern I had missed when I was too close to it. Then I noticed something strange. Several of my payment confirmation emails had been forwarded to Madison. I clicked on the forwarded messages. My stomach dropped. My parents had been sending Madison proof of my payments, and in the reply chains, I found exactly what I feared. 8 months ago, my mother had emailed Madison. "Thanks for letting us use your payments as cover. Everyone believes you are the generous one now." Madison's response: "Don't worry. I will make sure everyone knows I am the good daughter. Leanne does not care about appearances anyway." My father had chimed in. "Let's keep this arrangement going. Madison needs the credibility with Trevor's family. Leanne will not miss the recognition." I read those emails 5 times. The conspiracy had been deliberate, calculated. They had not just accidentally given Madison credit. They had actively plotted to steal my contributions and rebrand them as hers. I closed my laptop very carefully. My hands were steady. My heart rate was normal. But inside, something had crystallized into perfect, cold clarity. I was done. Completely done. The next morning, I went through my routine on autopilot. Shower, coffee, drive to work. I arrived at my desk at the medical billing company and tried to focus on insurance claims, but my mind kept circling back to those emails, those numbers, those 5 years of lies. At 10:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost did not answer. "Leanne?" A man's voice, familiar but strained. "It's Trevor, Madison's husband. Can we talk?" My entire body tensed. "About what?" "About Madison and your parents. Please, I need to talk to you. Can we meet somewhere?" 20 minutes later, I sat across from Trevor in a coffee shop, 3 blocks from my office. He looked terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, hair uncombed. Nothing like the polished lawyer who had charmed my family 5 years ago. "Thank you for meeting me," he said, hands wrapped around a coffee cup he had not touched. "I know this is strange, but I have been living a lie, and I think you have too." "What are you talking about?" Trevor took a deep breath. "Madison was fired from her job at the marketing firm 10 months ago. She has been pretending to go to work every day. She goes to the library or the mall. She comes home at normal times. She keeps up the appearance. But there is no job. There has not been one for almost a year." I sat very still, processing this information. "Our marriage is falling apart," Trevor continued. "We are $12,000 in credit card debt. Madison has been spending money we do not have trying to keep up appearances. Last week, I discovered she took out a loan in my name without telling me. $5,000. Gone. I do not even know where it went." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked quietly. "Because I am filing for separation," Trevor said. "And because your parents are part of the reason Madison cracked. They pushed her so hard to look successful, to be perfect, to make them proud. The pressure never stopped. She could not handle it. But instead of admitting she was struggling, she let them make you the scapegoat, and I stayed quiet. I watched them treat you like garbage at family dinners, and I said nothing. I am sorry, Leanne. I am so sorry." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Trevor pulled out his phone. "There is more," he said. "I found text messages between Madison and your mother. You need to see them." He turned his phone toward me. I read the messages, dated from 2 weeks before that horrible Sunday dinner. "Mother, make sure you look perfect at Sunday dinner. Leanne will probably show up in those cheap clothes again. Madison, do not worry. I have got a new designer dress. Everyone will see the difference between us. Mother, good. She needs to understand her place. Madison, she always has. That is why this works." I handed the phone back to Trevor. My hands were shaking now, but my voice stayed level. "Did you know I have been paying my parents' bills for 5 years while Madison took credit?" Trevor's face went pale. "No. I mean, I knew your parents talked about Madison helping them, but I thought it was true. I never questioned it. Madison told me she was sending them money from her paychecks." He stopped. "Oh God, There were no paychecks. So there was no money. It was you. It was always you. Before I could respond, the coffee shop door opened. Madison walked in. She froze when she saw us sitting together. Her face went from surprise to panic to rage in 3 seconds. She stormed over to our table. "What is this? Trevor, what are you doing?" "Talking to your sister," Trevor said calmly. "About the truth." "We are leaving," Madison snapped, grabbing his arm. Trevor pulled away. "No, we are not." Madison turned her fury on me. "What did you tell him? What lies have you been spreading?" I stood up slowly, gathering my purse. I looked at my sister, really looked at her, maybe for the first time in years. She was terrified. Beneath the designer dress and the perfect makeup, she was absolutely terrified. "I have not told him anything," I said quietly. "But I have a question for you. Did you know I have been paying Mom and Dad's bills for 5 years while you took credit for it?" Madison's face confirmed everything. The color drained from her cheeks. Her mouth opened and closed without sound. "Did you know?" I repeated. "You do not have kids," Madison finally hissed. "You do not have a real marriage. You can afford it. I needed the credibility. Trevor's family expected me to be successful, to help my parents, to be the good daughter. You were never going to be that anyway. So what does it matter?" The coffee shop had gone quiet. Other customers were staring. Trevor looked like he might be sick. I picked up my coffee, took one last sip, and set it down gently. "It matters because I am done being your family's ATM and punching bag. It matters because I spent 5 years sacrificing everything while you got the glory. But most of all, it matters because I finally see exactly who you are." I walked out of that coffee shop, leaving Madison and Trevor in the wreckage of their marriage. I did not look back. I did not need to. I already knew everything I needed to know. That evening, I was home in my pajamas, eating leftover Chinese food directly from the container when my doorbell rang. 8 o'clock. I was not expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw my parents standing in the hallway. My father looked angry, his jaw set in that way that used to terrify me as a child. My mother looked worried, hands twisting together, eyes darting around nervously. I considered not opening the door. I considered pretending I was not home. But something in me wanted this confrontation, needed it. So I opened the door and stood in the doorway, not inviting them in. "We need to talk about this nonsense you are spreading," my father said immediately, his voice hard. "I have not spread anything," I replied calmly. "But I have stopped paying your bills. Is that the nonsense you mean?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "Leanne, please, can we come in?" I stepped aside. They walked into my condo, and I noticed my father looking around with barely concealed disdain. My mother perched on the edge of my couch like she might catch something. I stayed standing, arms crossed. "You are destroying this family," my father began, launching into a lecture I had heard in various forms my entire life, words about duty and loyalty and responsibility, words about how family takes care of family, how we do not air our dirty laundry, how I was being selfish and childish and ungrateful. My mother cried quietly through his entire speech, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. When he finally stopped talking, I waited a moment. Then I spoke. "I have paid $52,347 to keep you afloat over the past 5 years, I said. Each word came out clear and precise. I ate ramen noodles for weeks at a time while you ate steak dinners I paid for. I skipped my own medical appointments because I could not afford copays after covering your mortgage. I worked 2 jobs, 16-hour days, until I was so exhausted I could barely function. I cried myself to sleep more nights than I can count. And through all of it, you told everyone that Madison was the generous one. You gave her credit for my money, my sacrifice, my bleeding." My father's face started to change. My mother's crying intensified. "You did not just ignore my help," I continued. "You humiliated me in front of our entire extended family. You stood up at Sunday dinner and told everyone I take up space. You laughed at me. You made me the family joke while spending my money." Madison needed the confidence boost, my mother said weakly. She was struggling, And you have always been so strong. We thought you could handle it. You thought I would not mind? I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. You thought I would just keep paying while you destroyed my reputation? We did not think you cared about appearances, my father said. You never seemed to care what people thought. I cared, I said quietly. I cared every single time you praised Madison and ignored me. I cared every single time you introduced her accomplishments and forgot mine. I cared every Sunday dinner when you asked about her life and skipped over mine. I cared when you called me on my birthday just to ask for money. I cared when you invited me to family gatherings just to have someone to look down on. I cared about all of it. The room fell silent except for my mother's soft sobbing. I walked to my desk and picked up a folder I had prepared. I opened it and pulled out printed bank statements, highlighted and annotated. I spread them across my coffee table. $52,000, I said, pointing to the total I had written at the bottom of the summary page. Look at it. Really look at it. My father leaned forward. His face went gray when he saw the number. My mother gasped, hand over her mouth. I could have bought a house with that money, I said. I could have traveled the world. I could have invested in my future. I could have lived. Instead, I sacrificed everything for you, while you told everyone I was worthless. We will pay you back, my father said suddenly, desperately. We will figure it out. Just give us time. With what money? I asked. You are 3 months behind on your mortgage again. I checked the public records. You are right back where you started. My mother's face crumpled. My father looked away. We will figure something out, he insisted. No, I said simply. You will not, because I am done. No more money, no more bailouts, no more sacrificing myself for people who see me as a space filler. My mother stood up, walked toward me. We are your parents. Family is supposed to help each other. You cannot just abandon us. Like you abandoned me? I asked. Like you emotionally abandoned me my entire life while I financially supported you? That kind of abandonment? She had no answer. My father tried one more approach. He stood up, drew himself to his full height, and used the voice that had made me obey as a child. We are your parents. You owe us. We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. This is how you repay us? Something inside me snapped. Not with anger, but with perfect, crystalline clarity. No, I said. I do not owe you. Not anymore. You did the bare minimum that parents are legally required to do. You fed me and housed me, but you never loved me the way you loved Madison. You never valued me. You never saw me. And I am done begging for crumbs of affection while bleeding myself dry financially. My father opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. I want you to leave now, I said quietly. Lean, my mother pleaded. Leave. They stood there for another moment, looking at me like they had never seen me before. Maybe they had not. Maybe they had never actually looked. Then my mother said something that made the room tilt. We refinanced the house last year, she whispered. We got $80,000 in cash out from the refinance. I stared at her. What? My father shot her a look that could kill, but she kept talking, words tumbling out in a rush. We refinanced. Got $80,000. We gave $60,000 to Madison. She said it was for an investment opportunity. She said it would make us all rich. We wanted to help her impress Trevor's family, show them she came from money. The room spun. You gave Madison $60,000 in 1 year while I bled out $52,000 over 5 years in secret payments? The money is gone, my father said flatly. Madison would not tell us what happened to it. It just disappeared. So you gave her $60,000 that vanished, but you still called me the disappointment at Sunday dinner, I said slowly. You still made that toast. You still humiliated me in front of everyone. Neither of them answered. Get out, I said. My voice was ice. Get out of my home right now. My father moved toward the door. My mother lingered, reaching for me. I stepped back. Please, she whispered. We made mistakes, but we are still your parents. You are the people who gave birth to me, I said. That does not make you my family. Not anymore. She started crying again, but she went to the door. My father opened it. He turned back one last time, trying to find words that would fix this. We are your parents, he said again. You owe us. No, I said for the final time. I do not. I closed the door on them. I locked it. I leaned against it and slid down to the floor. And for the first time in 5 years, I did not cry. I felt nothing but relief. 2 weeks passed in strange, quiet peace. I went to work, came home, existed in my own space without emergency phone calls or guilt trips or crises that needed my money to solve. It felt like learning to breathe after years underwater. Then my phone started ringing. My Aunt Carol had told 2 of my cousins what really happened. Those cousins told their spouses. Their spouses told their parents. Within a week, the truth had spread through our extended family like wildfire. The calls came in waves. My Uncle Patrick called first. I always wondered how Madison afforded that lifestyle on a marketing salary, he said. Turns out she did not. You did. I am sorry, Leanne. I should have questioned it. My cousin Brian called next. I feel like an idiot, he admitted. All those family dinners when your parents bragged about Madison sending them money, I believed them. I never thought to ask why you were so quiet. I am sorry we did not see what was happening. Then my grandmother called. My father's mother, 83 years old with a voice like gravel and a mind sharper than people gave her credit for. Your mother did the same thing to me, she said without preamble. Played favorites with your father and his brother. I watched her do it to you girls and said nothing. I am ashamed I did not protect you. I know what it feels like, and I let it happen to you anyway. Some family members demanded I forgive my parents immediately. They called to lecture me about how family is forever, how I was being too harsh, how my parents did their best. I listened politely and then ended the calls. Their opinions no longer had power over me, but others understood. They shared their own stories of being overlooked, of sacrificing quietly, of watching golden children get praised for nothing while they did all the work. The conversations hurt and healed in equal measure. Through the family grapevine, I heard about Madison's complete collapse. Trevor had filed for divorce. He had moved out of their house. Madison, unable to afford rent on her own, had moved back in with our parents. She was sleeping in her childhood bedroom with her high school trophies still on the shelves. The $60,000 our parents had given her? Gone. Madison had tried to start a boutique clothing store. She had signed a lease, bought inventory, hired staff, and opened with no business plan and no experience. The boutique lasted 4 months before hemorrhaging money forced her to close. She lost everything. The lease penalties alone cost $12,000. But it was worse than that. Madison had convinced 3 of her friends to invest in the boutique. She had promised them returns. When the business failed, those friendships ended. The friends wanted their money back. Madison had nothing to give them. Our parents, meanwhile, were learning what life looked like without my financial safety net. Their electricity got shut off twice in 3 weeks. The first time, they paid the reconnection fee with a credit card. The second time, they had to borrow money from my Uncle Patrick, who made them promise to budget better before he handed over the cash. The water company sent a final notice. The gas bill went to collections. My father's truck broke down again, and this time there was no money to fix it. He started taking the bus to his part-time job at the hardware store, a job he had taken at age 62 because they had no retirement savings. My mother's prescription costs piled up. She needed medication for high blood pressure and cholesterol, but she kept skipping doses to make the bottles last longer. Her health started declining. They called Madison for help. Madison had nothing to give. She was applying for jobs at retail stores and coffee shops, taking anything that would hire her. Her resume had a 10-month gap she could not explain without admitting she had been fired and lied about it. The fights between Madison and our parents became legendary in family gossip. Screaming matches about whose fault it was. Madison blamed them for pressuring her to be perfect. They blamed her for losing $60,000. Everyone blamed everyone, and nothing got solved. Meanwhile, the community judgment rolled in like a tide. Our parents attended a small Methodist church in their town. Word spread through the congregation about how they had treated me. Several church members approached my mother after Sunday service to express disappointment. One woman, a grandmother of 6, told my mother directly that what she had done was cruel and unchristian. My mother stopped attending services. My father's poker buddies, men he had known for 20 years, started finding excuses not to include him in their weekly games. They had heard the story from their wives, who had heard it from the church women, who had heard it from family members. The social consequences rippled outward. Neighbors who had watched me visit every Sunday for 5 years, carrying groceries and writing checks, started putting pieces together. They had seen Madison show up in designer clothes and expensive cars while I drove my practical sedan and wore Target clearance. They had drawn their own conclusions about who was successful and who was struggling. Now they knew the truth was exactly backward. The judgment was quiet but devastating. Invitations stopped coming. Casual friendships cooled. My parents, who had built their entire social identity around having a successful daughter married to a lawyer, watched that identity crumble when everyone learned the successful daughter was broke and divorced, while the disappointment daughter had been funding their lifestyle. 3 weeks after our confrontation, my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. I almost sent it to voicemail, but something made me answer. "Leanne?" A woman's voice, professional and warm. "This is Patricia Chen from Meridian Healthcare Consulting. I know this is unexpected, but I wanted to reach out to you about an opportunity." I sat up straighter. Patricia Chen was my former boss from the medical billing company. She had left 2 years ago to start her own consulting firm. "I am listening," I said carefully. "I am expanding Meridian, and I need a partner. Someone who knows medical billing inside and out, who has design skills for client presentations, who understands the business from the ground up." I immediately thought of you. The position comes with a starting salary of $95,000 per year, plus equity in the company, full benefits, retirement matching, the works. There is just one catch. "What is it?" "The position is in Colorado. Denver. We would need you to relocate. 2 states away, 2,000 miles from my parents. A fresh start in a city where nobody knew my history." "You would have 3 days to decide," Patricia continued. "I know it is fast, but I need to fill this position quickly, and Leanne, you are my first choice. You have always been brilliant at what you do. I have watched your career from a distance, and I think you are ready for this." We talked for 40 minutes about the position, the company, the vision for growth. Everything she described sounded like a dream. A real career, not just a job. Partnership equity. Financial security. Respect. After we hung up, I sat in my living room and stared at the wall. I could leave. I could walk away from all of it. My parents, Madison, the family drama, the painful history. I could start over where nobody knew me as the disappointment daughter. The power was entirely in my hands. For the first time in my life, I got to choose what happened next. Not them. Me. The feeling was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. I took a personal day from work and drove 2 hours north to a lake I had visited once as a teenager. The drive gave me time to think without distractions, without phone calls, without the weight of other people's expectations pressing down on me. The lake was quiet in late autumn. Most of the summer tourists had gone home. A few boats dotted the water in the distance, but the shore where I sat was empty, except for ducks paddling near the reeds. I thought about my entire life, let the memories wash over me, without trying to push them away. I remembered being 8 years old, bringing home a report card with straight A grades. My parents glanced at it and said good job, before turning their attention back to Madison's school play rehearsal schedule. I remembered thinking even then that something was wrong, that love was supposed to feel different than this. I remembered high school. Madison got new cheerleading uniforms, expensive and custom-fitted. I worked after school at a grocery store to buy my own band instrument because the school's loaner clarinet was falling apart. My parents came to one of Madison's cheerleading competitions and 0 of my band concerts. They said they were busy. They were always busy when it came to me. I remembered college. My parents paid Madison's tuition at the state university, bought her textbooks, sent her spending money. I took out student loans, worked 2 campus jobs, and graduated with $23,000 in debt that took me 6 years to pay off. When I graduated summa cum laude, they came to the ceremony but left early to get to Madison's birthday dinner. My graduation dinner was at Applebee's 2 weeks later because that was when they had time. Every holiday, every birthday, every milestone. Madison got celebrations, I got practical gifts and distracted conversations. But sitting by that lake, I realized something that shifted my entire perspective. The disappointment was never about me. It was never about my worth or my abilities or my value as a human being. The disappointment was their own inadequacy reflected back at them. I had always been independent. Even as a child, I solved my own problems, made my own decisions, figured out my own path. I did not need them to tell me how to live, and that independence threatened them. Madison, on the other hand, needed them constantly. She needed their validation, their approval, their financial support, their guidance. She made them feel necessary, important, powerful. I made them feel obsolete. The cruelty had not been about me being less than Madison. It had been about them needing to feel needed, and I had never needed them the way they wanted to be needed. The realization did not erase the hurt, but it changed the shape of it, made it smaller, made it theirs to carry instead of mine. My phone rang. I looked at the screen. My father. I almost declined the call, but something in me wanted to hear what he had to say, so I answered. Leanne. His voice was different, quiet, broken. I need to tell you something. I waited. I got your birth certificate out yesterday, for some paperwork with the bank. He paused, took a shaky breath. You were born 6 weeks premature. Your mother was very sick. We almost lost both of you. I know this story, Dad. You do not know all of it, he said. The doctors told us you might have developmental problems. They said you might struggle. Physically, mentally. They prepared us for a difficult child. Your mother and I, we spent your entire first year waiting for something to go wrong. Waiting for you to fail. Waiting for the doctors to be proven right. I felt cold despite the afternoon sundae. But you were fine, he continued. More than fine. You were perfect. You hit every milestone early. You were reading at 3. You were doing math in your head at 5. You were so smart, so capable, so independent. But I think, God help me, I think we never let go of that fear. We kept waiting for you to fail, to need us, to prove those doctors right. He was crying now. I could hear it in his voice. Madison was easy. She needed us. She made us feel like good parents, like we had a purpose. You were always so independent, so capable. We told ourselves you did not need our praise. You did not need our attention. But the truth is, Leanne, we were intimidated by you. We were scared of you. You were the child who did not need us, and that terrified us more than anything. I sat in silence, processing his words, understanding and fury mixing together in my chest. I am not asking for forgiveness, my father said. I do not deserve it. I am just asking you to understand. We were wrong. About everything. You were never the disappointment. You were the miracle we were too scared to appreciate. And by the time we realized what we had done, how we had treated you, it was too late. We had already destroyed any chance of a real relationship. Why are you telling me this now? I asked quietly. Because you deserve to know it was not about you. It was never about you. It was always about us and our own failures. And because I need you to know that I am proud of you. I should have said it every day of your life. But I am saying it now. I am proud of you, Leanne. I am so proud I cannot even find the words. We sat in silence, connected by phone across the miles, neither of us knowing what to say next. I have a job offer, I said, finally, in Denver. Partnership in a consulting firm. $95,000 a year plus equity. I would be moving in 6 weeks. You should take it, my father said immediately. You should take it and never look back. That is what I am planning to do. Good, he said. Good. You build the life you deserve, Leon, even if we are not in it. After we hung up, I sat by the lake for another hour, watching the ducks, feeling the sun on my face, letting everything settle into place. My father's explanation did not fix anything. It did not erase 32 years of being invisible, but it gave me something I needed. Context. Understanding. The knowledge that their cruelty was about them, not me. I made my decision sitting there by the water. I called Patricia and accepted the partnership. I was moving to Denver. Fresh start, new city, real career. But first, I had something I needed to do. I drove back to my parents' house. It was 4 p.m. when I pulled into their driveway. Madison's car was there. I had expected that. I wanted both of them present for this. Madison answered the door. She looked terrible. No makeup, hair in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. She stared at me like I was a ghost. "What are you doing here?" I walked past her without answering. My parents were in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch like strangers. They looked up when I entered, both of them going pale. I pulled an envelope from my purse and set it on the coffee table between us. "What is that?" my mother asked. "Open it." My father reached for the envelope with shaking hands. He pulled out a check. His eyes widened. $15,000. "That is enough to catch up on your mortgage and cover your bills for 3 months, I said. "After that, you are on your own." "Why?" my mother whispered. "After everything, why would you do this?" "Because I am not doing this for you," I said clearly. "I am doing it for me. I am choosing to be the person I want to be, not the person you made me feel like. I am choosing to close this chapter with grace instead of bitterness. Not because you deserve it, but because I do." I turned to Madison. She was standing in the doorway, arms wrapped around herself, tears running down her face. "You and I are done," I told her. "We are not sisters. We are strangers who happen to share DNA. I do not forgive you, and I do not want a relationship with you. But I hope you figure out who you are without their expectations crushing you. I hope you find yourself under all the pressure and the lies, because that person, whoever she is, deserves better than the life you have been living." Madison sobbed but said nothing. I looked at my parents one last time. "I spent 32 years trying to earn your love. I bled myself dry financially and emotionally trying to be good enough. I am done. I love myself enough now. That is all I needed." I walked to the door. My mother called after me. "Leon, wait, please." I stopped, but did not turn around. "I am moving to Denver in 6 weeks. I have a new job, a new life, a new future. You will not be part of it. That check is my goodbye. Use it wisely." I left that house for the last time. I got in my car, drove away, and did not look in the rearview mirror. I was finally free. 6 months later, my life looked completely different. I stood in my corner office on the 14th floor of a building in downtown Denver, looking out at the Rocky Mountains in the distance. The view never got old. Every morning, I arrived at work and took a moment to appreciate where I was, how far I had come, how different everything felt. Meridian Healthcare Consulting had exceeded every expectation. Patricia and I made a formidable team. She handled the big-picture strategy while I managed the operations and client relations. We had landed 6 major contracts in 5 months. Our reputation was growing. My equity in the company was already worth more than I had ever imagined. I had 3 young professionals working under me now. I mentored them the way I wished someone had mentored me. I praised their accomplishments. I recognized their efforts. I made sure they knew their value. One of them, a 24-year-old woman named Jenna, had told me last week that I was the best boss she had ever had. The compliment meant more than she could possibly know. I bought a townhouse with a view of the mountains, 2 bedrooms, modern kitchen, small backyard, where I planted herbs and vegetables. The mortgage was mine. The furniture was mine. The life I was building was entirely mine. I was dating someone. His name was Andrew. He was an architect who designed sustainable buildings. We met at a coffee shop when we both reached for the last blueberry muffin and decided to split it instead of fighting over it. He was kind, thoughtful, and treated me with a respect I had not known I deserved. We took things slow. There was no pressure, no expectations, just two people enjoying each other's company. I had new friends, people from work, from my neighborhood, from the yoga class I joined, people who knew me only as Leanne, successful consultant and good friend. They knew nothing about my history, my family, the years of being invisible. To them, I was just myself. It was liberating. I went to therapy every week. Dr. Sarah Martinez helped me untangle 32 years of emotional damage. We worked through the hurt, the anger, the grief. She taught me that healing was not about forgetting or forgiving. It was about understanding, releasing, and choosing to move forward. I started a blog, anonymous. I wrote about financial boundaries in families, about recognizing emotional abuse, about the cost of trying to earn love from people incapable of giving it. The blog had over 10,000 followers now. I received messages every day from people telling me my words had helped them set boundaries, had helped them see their own worth, had helped them walk away from toxic family dynamics. Knowing I was helping others heal made my own healing feel purposeful. Through my Aunt Carol, I heard updates about my family. I never asked for them, but Carol insisted on telling me anyway. She said I deserved to know, even if I did not care anymore. My parents had kept their house, barely. The $15,000 I gave them bought enough time for my father to pick up extra shifts and my mother to start working part-time at a grocery store. They were living on a strict budget now, making their own sacrifices, learning what financial struggle actually felt like. Madison had moved into a small apartment and gotten a job at a coffee shop. She was working her way up to assistant manager. Carol said she seemed different, quieter, less concerned with appearances. She had started attending therapy too, working through her own issues with our parents' expectations and her role in the family dysfunction. My parents and Madison were going to family therapy together. A therapist was helping them understand the patterns of favoritism, codependency, and emotional manipulation that had defined their relationships for decades. Carol said the sessions were brutal, a lot of crying, a lot of hard truths. But they were showing up. They were trying. I was glad they were getting help. But their healing was not my responsibility. Their growth was not my burden. I had my own life to live. One afternoon in late spring, I received a package at my office. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter, 9 pages. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was an apology. Not the vague, self-serving kind. A real apology. Specific, detailed, painful. She listed every moment she remembered hurting me. The time she forgot my 10th birthday because she was planning Madison's surprise party. The time she told me my prom dress looked cheap while praising Madison's expensive gown. The time she did not come to my college graduation ceremony because she was tired. The time she asked me for money while I was in the emergency room with appendicitis. The time she told relatives Madison was the smart one. The time she laughed when my father called me a disappointment at Christmas dinner. Every moment remembered and acknowledged. She apologized for each one, not with excuses, just with recognition of the harm she had caused. The letter ended with this: "You deserved better. You deserved everything. I am sorry I could not see the treasure I had. I understand if you never want to speak to me again. But I need you to know this. I am proud of you. I always should have been. You are extraordinary, Leanne. You always were. And I am sorry it took losing you to finally see it." I read the letter 3 times. Tears ran down my face. Not because I wanted to reconcile, not because the apology fixed anything, but because the acknowledgement healed something deep inside me. The little girl who had spent her whole life wondering why she was not good enough finally got her answer. She was always good enough. They were just too broken to see it. I did not write back. But I did not throw the letter away either. I put it in a drawer in my desk. Maybe someday I would feel differently. Maybe not. Either way was okay. On a Sunday afternoon in June, I sat in a park near my townhouse, feeding ducks at a small pond, enjoying the sunshine and the peace, Andrew joined me, carrying 2 iced coffees from my favorite cafe. He sat beside me on the bench, handed me my coffee, and we watched the ducks together in comfortable silence. "Do you miss them?" he asked eventually. "Your family?" I thought about his question carefully. I miss the family I wish I had. I miss the idea of parents who loved me unconditionally, a sister who was my best friend, holidays that felt warm instead of painful. But I do not miss the reality. I do not miss the pain. And I do not regret leaving. "Any regrets at all?" he asked gently. "Just one," I said. "I wish I had valued myself sooner. I wish I had walked away the first time they made me feel worthless, instead of spending 5 years trying to prove I was worthy. But I guess we learn when we are ready to learn." My phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, one of my mentees. She had just closed her first solo client contract and wanted to thank me for believing in her. I smiled and texted back congratulations. Andrew watched me, his own smile soft. "You are really good at what you do. At work, I mean, but also at life. At being kind while protecting yourself. At helping others while maintaining boundaries. At moving forward without being consumed by the past." "I am still learning," I admitted. "Every day, I am still learning." "We all are," he said. We sat in that park for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. Making plans for dinner. Discussing a weekend trip to the mountains. Living a life that felt peaceful and full and entirely mine. I thought about everything I had learned over the past year. About family, love, worth, and freedom. I learned that you cannot earn love from people who have decided you are not worthy. You can only walk away and find people who see your value without being asked. I learned that financial generosity without emotional respect is just exploitation. That giving until you have nothing left does not make you noble, it makes you a target. I learned that being strong does not mean carrying everyone else's burdens. That setting boundaries is not selfish. That choosing yourself is not cruel. I learned that the only approval that truly matters is your own. That you cannot build your life on someone else's expectations. That you deserve to be celebrated, not tolerated. Most importantly, I learned that family is not always blood. Family is the people who show up for you, who celebrate your wins, who support your dreams, who see your worth without needing proof. My parents taught me what not to be. Madison taught me the cost of living for other people's approval. And in walking away from them, I discovered who I actually am. I am someone worthy of love. Someone capable of great things. Someone deserving of respect and celebration and joy. Not because of what I can give others, but because of who I am when I choose myself first. I am finally free, and I am finally home within myself. That is the greatest gift I could have ever given myself. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? Have you ever been the one who gave everything while someone else got all the credit? How did you find the strength to choose yourself when everyone expected you to keep sacrificing? I would love to hear your stories in the comments. Your experiences might help someone else who is struggling with similar pain. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding strength through adversity, and share this with anyone who might need to hear it. Your support means everything and helps these stories reach people who need them most. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I wish you the courage to value yourself, the strength to set boundaries, and the wisdom to build a life that honors your worth. You deserve better than being someone's afterthought. You deserve to be someone's priority. And if you are not, you deserve the freedom to walk away and find people who will treat you that way. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you are worthy, exactly as you are.